You slept 8 hours, maybe 9. You did everything right, went to bed on time, kept the room dark, put the phone away, and yet, when morning comes, you drag yourself up feeling like you never rested at all. The tiredness is already there, waiting for you before your feet hit the floor. Not the normal fatigue that follows a hard day, something deeper. Something that seems to live in your bones now. A permanent resident that no amount of sleep can evict. People notice. They tell you that you look tired. You laugh it off, say you didn't sleep well, even when you did. Because how do you explain that the tiredness has nothing to do with last night? It's older than that. It's been accumulating for years, maybe decades. Layers of exhaustion stacked so high you've forgotten what energy actually feels like. You see other people move through their days with a lightness you can barely remember. You wonder what they're running on. You wonder if you were ever like that. The doctor says your blood work is fine. You're not anemic, your thyroid is normal, there's nothing physically wrong, and somehow that makes it worse. At least a diagnosis would be an answer. Instead, you're left with a mystery. A body that demands rest it never seems to receive. A fatigue that floats outside of medical explanation. You're not sick, you're just always endlessly tired. Most people push through. They drink more coffee, blame their schedule, promise themselves rest that never comes. But this moment is worth pausing at. Because what if this tiredness isn't a failure of sleep? What if your body is exhausted from something sleep was never designed to fix? There's a tiredness that lives in the muscles. You feel it after physical work, after exercise, after a day spent moving. It's honest fatigue. The body signals that it needs recovery. You rest, and the energy returns. This kind of tired has a logic to it. Input and output. Spend and replenish. The equation balances, and you wake up restored. But there's another tiredness that doesn't follow these rules. It doesn't care how much you slept or how little you moved. It sits behind your eyes, in your thoughts, in the weight of simply being conscious. This is the fatigue of the mind, and it plays by different laws. You can lie in bed for 12 hours and wake up feeling like you ran a marathon, because while your body was still, something inside was working overtime. Mental exhaustion comes from invisible labor, the constant processing of thoughts that won't quiet, the surveillance of your own emotions, the calculations you run before speaking, before acting, before existing in the presence of others. None of this shows up on a fitness tracker. No one sees the energy it costs to manage anxiety, to suppress anger, to rehearse conversations, to simply hold yourself together through another ordinary day. This is why rest doesn't work the way it should. You're resting the wrong system. The body lies down, but the mind keeps running. It chews on the past, rehearses the future, monitors threats that may never arrive. You wake up depleted because the part of you that needed rest never got permission to stop. The body wasn't the problem. It was the only part that ever got a break. Your body has a built-in alarm system. When danger appears, it activates. Heart rate climbs, muscles tense, senses sharpen. This is the stress response designed to save your life. It floods you with energy, prepares you to fight or run. And when the danger passes, the system is supposed to switch off. The body returns to rest. The alarm goes quiet. Recovery begins. But what if the alarm never turns off? What if your nervous system learned somewhere along the way that danger is always present? Not a tiger in the grass, but something subtler. The possibility of rejection, the threat of failure, the sense that something could go wrong at any moment. The system stays activated. Not at full volume, but at a constant low hum. Always scanning, always ready, never at rest. This is chronic hypervigilance. From the outside, it's invisible. You're not panicking, you're functioning, but inside, your body is burning fuel at an unsustainable rate. Cortisol stays elevated. Muscles hold tension you're no longer aware of. Sleep becomes shallow because the brain refuses to fully power down. What if something happens? The system that was meant to protect you in emergencies is now running during breakfast, during meetings, during quiet evenings at home. The exhaustion this creates is profound. You're not just tired from doing things. You're tired from being ready for conflict, ready for criticism, ready for the floor to drop. Years of this state drain the body in ways that weekends can't repair. The tiredness isn't weakness. It's the cost of a nervous system that was never told the war is over. No one is born afraid to rest. Babies sleep without guilt, demand comfort without apology. The permission to stop, to pause, to do nothing, it's original equipment. But somewhere along the way, some children learn that rest is not safe, that stillness is suspicious, that the only way to be acceptable is to be useful. In some families, rest was treated as laziness. There was always something more productive to do. Sitting down invited criticism. Watching TV brought comments. Doing nothing meant you were nothing. The child learned to stay in motion, to always have a task, to justify their existence through output. Exhaustion became normal. Rest became a character flaw. Other children grew up in chaos where relaxation meant letting your guard down. An unpredictable parent, explosive conflict, the sense that calm was just the pause before the next storm. In those homes, the nervous system learned that rest is dangerous. You don't relax in a war zone. You stay alert. You stay ready. The body armored itself against peace because peace was never trustworthy. Some learned that their value was in caretaking, a depressed parent who needed managing, siblings who required attention, a household that functioned only because the child held it together. Rest meant someone else would suffer. Stopping meant failing the people who depended on you. Exhaustion became proof of love. By adulthood, these patterns run automatically. You feel guilty when you rest, anxious when you stop. The body is screaming for a break, but something deeper insists you haven't earned it. The tiredness isn't just physical. It's the weight of a childhood that never taught you how to put the weight down. There's a particular kind of tired that comes from pretending, not lying exactly, just adjusting, softening your opinions so they don't create friction, smiling when you feel nothing, laughing at jokes that aren't funny, being the version of yourself that keeps things smooth, that makes others comfortable, that fits the shape of what's expected. It doesn't feel like performance. It feels like survival. But it costs more than you realize. Every adjustment takes energy. Every suppressed reaction, every curated response, every moment of being slightly different than you actually are. It draws from a finite reserve. The face you show the world requires maintenance. And when that face doesn't match what's underneath, the gap itself becomes exhausting. You're running two systems at once, who you are and who you're pretending to be. Some people have been performing so long they've forgotten there's an original underneath. The mask fused to the skin. They feel tired but can't explain why. Their life looks fine. Their job is manageable. Nothing is technically wrong. But they're spending enormous energy being someone they're not, and the body keeps the bill even when the mind forgets. This exhaustion has a specific flavor. It's the tiredness of inauthenticity, of never quite landing in your own life, of being surrounded by people who like you, but knowing they've never met the real one. Connection that should replenish instead depletes, because it's not really you they're connecting to. You leave social situations more drained than when you arrived. The performance was successful. The performer is empty. Emotions are not just experiences. They're energy. They arise in the body, demand movement, and are meant to pass through. Anger wants to roar. Grief wants to pour out. Fear wants to shake. When you let them move, they complete their cycle and release. But when you stop them, hold them down, swallow them back, refuse them space, they don't disappear. They stay. And they take up residence in the body, pressing against the walls of your containment. Suppressed emotions require constant management. It takes energy to not feel. The anger you won't express sits in your jaw, your shoulders, your clenched fists. The sadness you won't cry lodges in your chest, heavy and unmovable. The fear you won't acknowledge runs as background static, low-grade but constant. You're not just carrying your day. You're carrying years of unfelt feelings, stacked like unpaid debts inside your body. Some people learned early that emotions were unacceptable. Crying was met with ridicule. Anger was punished. Need was ignored. So they built walls, not just against the world, but against themselves. They became masters of containment. Functional, capable, fine. But underneath, the pressure builds. The body knows what you've stored. It feels the weight even when your mind refuses to look. This is one of the hidden engines of chronic exhaustion. You're not just tired from what you do. You're tired from what you hold. Every unfelt grief, every swallowed scream, every tear that never fell. It stays in the account, accumulating interest. The body begs for release. But release requires feeling, and feeling is exactly what you learned was never safe. There's a tiredness that comes not from doing too much, but from wanting too little. When nothing pulls you forward, every step becomes effort. You move through days that have tasks but no meaning, obligations but no spark. The body completes what's required, but there's no fuel behind it. Just friction, just push, just the grind of motion without momentum. Desire is energy. When you want something, really want it, the body mobilizes. Dopamine rises before you even reach the goal. Anticipation itself is fuel. But when that system goes quiet, when nothing excites or compels, life becomes a series of motions performed on empty. You do the dishes, you answer emails, you show up, but there's no pull, only push. And pushing without pull is exhausting in a way that's hard to explain. People without desire often look functional. They're not crying, not breaking down, not failing visibly, but they're running on willpower alone, the most expensive fuel there is. Willpower is meant for emergencies, for short bursts when motivation fails. It was never designed to be the main engine. When you run on it daily, you drain reserves that were meant for crises. No wonder you're tired. You've been forcing yourself through a life that doesn't magnetize. The cruelest part is that this tiredness breeds more desirelessness. When you're exhausted, nothing sounds good. When nothing sounds good, you lose the energy that interest would provide. The loop tightens. You're too tired to want, and too wantless to have energy. Breaking this cycle requires something small. Not passion, not purpose, just one flicker of genuine interest. But when you're this depleted, even a flicker can feel like too much to ask. Every choice costs something. What to wear, what to eat, how to respond to that message, which task to tackle first. Each decision, no matter how small, draws from a limited daily reserve. By the time the afternoon arrives, you've made hundreds of choices, most of them invisible, none of them rest. And you wonder why you feel depleted when you've barely done anything. But you have done something. You've decided, over and over, in a world that never stops asking. Modern life has multiplied choices beyond anything our brains evolved to handle. 100 years ago, you wore what you had, ate what was available, knew fewer people, faced fewer options. Now, the menu is infinite. Streaming services with thousands of shows, grocery stores with 50 types of bread, a phone that delivers 100 small demands before breakfast. The freedom is real, but so is the cost. Every option requires evaluation. Every possibility taxes the system. This is decision fatigue, and it's a silent thief of energy. It doesn't feel like work, so you don't count it. But your brain does. The same mental resource you use for important choices gets spent on trivial ones. By evening, you're depleted. Not from physical effort, not from emotional strain, but from the accumulated weight of choosing. You stare at the screen, unable to pick what to watch, and feel inexplicably exhausted. The mind has been working all day. It just never looked like work. The overwhelm compounds. When you're already tired, decisions feel harder. When decisions feel harder, you avoid them, or make them poorly, or let them pile up. The pile becomes its own source of stress. Emails unanswered, tasks postponed. The mental clutter grows, and beneath it all the tiredness deepens, not because life is hard, but because life is endless, and every small moment asks something of you. There's an exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from being invisible while you do it. You show up, you contribute, you hold things together, and no one seems to notice. Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet absence of acknowledgement. The work gets done, but it's as if it did itself. You exist in the background of your own life, essential but unseen. Being witnessed is a human need. Not applause, not praise, but simple recognition. The feeling that someone registers your presence, your effort, your existence. When that recognition is absent, something starts to drain. You give and give, but nothing reflects back. It's like speaking into a void. The words leave you, but there's no echo. Over time, the silence becomes its own kind of weight. Some people have been unseen their whole lives. The quiet child in a loud family. The competent one who never struggled visibly enough to attract attention. The caretaker whose labor was expected, never appreciated. They learned to function without being witnessed, to need nothing from others. But the body keeps track. The soul keeps track. The tiredness accumulates in the place where recognition should have landed. This exhaustion often confuses people who carry it. Their life isn't hard, technically. They're not being mistreated, but they're deeply, persistently tired, and they can't explain why. The answer is that they've been running on empty validation for years. The tank that should be filled by being seen, by mattering to someone, has been dry so long they forgot it was supposed to hold anything at all. You take a vacation. You sleep in on weekends. You binge a show, scroll for hours, zone out in every way available. And still, you return to Monday just as tired as before. Maybe more. The rest didn't work. Not because you did it wrong, but because what you needed wasn't what you got. You rested your body. You distracted your mind. But something deeper never stopped running. Most people don't know there are different types of rest. Physical rest is obvious. Sleep, stillness, letting the muscles recover. But there's also mental rest, the quieting of endless thought. Emotional rest, the break from managing feelings. Social rest, time away from performing for others. Sensory rest, relief from the constant bombardment of noise, screens, stimulation. Creative rest, space to receive beauty instead of always producing. And spiritual rest, the pause from striving, from meaning-making, from the pressure of purpose. When you're exhausted in one of these areas and you rest in another, the tiredness doesn't lift. You can sleep 10 hours and still be mentally depleted. You can take a week off work and return emotionally drained. The vacation was restful for your schedule, but your nervous system never got permission to stop. The real rest requires knowing what's actually empty, and most people never ask. This is the secret. Rest isn't one thing. It's a specific medicine for a specific depletion. The tired person who needs solitude won't recover at a party. The one who needs connection won't heal alone. The soul, starving for meaning, won't find it in distraction. Real rest means diagnosing accurately. It means giving yourself the precise thing that's missing, not just the thing that's easy or available. Knowing you need rest is one thing. Knowing what kind of rest is another. Most people have never been taught to ask the question, what exactly is tired in me right now? They feel the exhaustion as one undifferentiated mass and reach for the nearest remedy. Sleep, distraction, escape. Sometimes it helps, often it doesn't, because the remedy doesn't match the wound. Start by listening differently. When the tiredness arrives, don't immediately try to fix it. Pause. Ask it what it needs. Not with logic, with attention. Does your body ache for stillness, or has it been still too long and craves movement? Does your mind need silence, or is it starving for stimulation that actually interests it? Are you drained from people or drained from the absence of real connection? The answers aren't always obvious. They require a kind of inner listening most people have never practiced. Replenishment is personal. For one person, restoration means a walk alone in nature. For another, it means a deep conversation with someone who truly sees them. Some people need to create, to let energy flow outward into something meaningful. Others need to receive beauty, care, attention. The exhausted artist might need to stop producing. The exhausted caretaker might need to be held. There's no universal prescription. There's only your specific emptiness asking for its specific medicine. This takes experimentation. You might try rest that doesn't work, and that's information. You might discover that what you always reached for, screens, sleep, isolation, was never what you actually needed. Slowly, you build a new vocabulary of replenishment. You learn your own patterns. You start to catch the depletion earlier, name it more precisely, respond more accurately. Rest becomes a skill, and like any skill, it gets better with practice. There's a moment, it doesn't come all at once, when something shifts. The nervous system, so long locked in vigilance, begins to soften. The weight you carried without knowing you were carrying it starts to lift. You notice one morning that you feel slightly different. Not fixed, not perfect, but lighter. The tiredness that lived in your bones has loosened its grip. Something that was clenched has finally begun to release. This is what happens when you stop surviving and start living. Survival mode is expensive. It runs the engine hot, burns through reserves, keeps every system on alert. It was necessary once. It got you through, but it was never meant to be permanent. When safety finally registers, real safety, felt in the body, not just understood by the mind, the system can power down. And when it does, energy returns from places you forgot existed. The change is subtle at first. You laugh more easily. You notice small pleasures you used to walk past. Sleep becomes deeper. Mornings feel less like battle. You have capacity again, not just to function, but to want, to enjoy, to move toward things instead of just pushing through them. The world didn't change. Your nervous system did. It finally got the message that the emergency is over. This isn't a destination, it's a direction. There will still be tired days, hard seasons, moments when the old exhaustion returns, but you'll know now what it's asking for. You'll recognize the difference between body tired and soul tired. You'll have tools, awareness, a relationship with your own needs that you didn't have before. The tiredness was never your enemy. It was a signal, and once you learn to hear it, it becomes the guide that leads you back to yourself.